hello, everybody, and welcome to another Monday night edition of John and I hanging out with you. If you missed last week, we jumped in the Zoom chat. Yeah, the Zoom chat. Not suddenly talk.
Wow.
The Zoom chat. That's much a little bit better. Anyway, we jumped in there and got to talk with some different people, and it was pretty cool to have that. Now tonight, we're obviously just John and I. So if you want to chat with us, what you got to do is you got to put your comments into the YouTube chat, and then we can follow along. Much simpler. Yeah.
Yeah, we got to move us up a little bit because we were down too far.
So get up.
So tonight's topic, let's see, we're going to discuss about moving to successfully move to a part-time status as a DJ. For a lot of you out there, the goal for the last X number of years has been, let's move to a full-time, let's make this our career. We love this, we're passionate, whatever. That obviously 2020 decided to throw a monkey wrench into that plan. So we're going to talk about, for those of you who were full-time and you've been doing the DJ thing, you were full-time, you got your PPP loan, you got your unemployment, and here you are sitting here at August of 2020 wondering what's next and thinking about, should I move back to a part-time status? That's what we're going to talk about tonight, of what it will take to do that and do it well and continuing on in your career. So Howie's there, Trevor, JC, thank you guys for being with. Scott is with us, so got a good crowd coming in already.
Nice.
Dan, before we get into the show, though, I wanted to kind of do a shout out for the show. I just finished up a show, really talking. What I wanted to talk about in that show was the kind of getting back to the basic, why we started as DJs and the passion we had as DJs. And this was I picked this topic, I think last Wednesday, Thursday, whatever it was, and I've been kind of working through the points. And then I get another call, and then today I got another DJ who called, and it's just the amount of, the passion that we had. There's this thing called burnout. I think we went from a burnout with some people to literally a hopelessness in out there right now. And I that's a concerning thing, and that's really why I kind of wanted to do that. But the discussion I had with a DJ today, and just the Bill Herman in his, if you guys get a chance to do hang out with Bill Herman Monday nights earlier in the evening, he does kind of a little gathering. I don't remember what he calls it. Basically, though, it's just a gab session. And I popped my nose in there for a few minutes tonight, and he was talking about the uncertainty and how we most of us like to control things. We're entrepreneurs, and we want to be having our, be able to say, okay, we are going to do A, B, C, and D. And have that level of control. And we just don't have that with this. And that frustration and stress and those different parts of it kind of start to eat at us. And I think that kind of really bridges into this show, is because of that uncertainty and because of those stresses and those different things, not knowing where to a point our next paycheck is going to be coming from or when we're going to see that next paycheck. I think that kind of puts us into that world of needing to maybe go have a part-time DJ business once again. So,
well, I think it's easy to fall into that hopelessness type of feel too, because I think for a lot of us, we became DJs out of something happened. We were at an event, we played an event, we did something for somebody's party where we played music, and we got a reaction from people, and you get that reaction, and for me, when I play, it's so much harder for me to play like back here on my table than it is for me to go to an event. Even though the stress is much more at the event, it's so much easier just because I can get a reaction from people. You go 6 months, well, probably longer, because we had coming off the winter season for those of us who usually that's our downtime. Mm-hmm. And then you have the stoppage time that's been going on. And so, we're getting so far removed from those reactions that it's just, emotionally is our feelings are different.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And I mean,
that was a side point to what we're going to talk about.
No, but I think that's a real thing, is that, really to a point, the only real fear we had as DJs, concerns, let's put it that way. I don't want to use the fear in that word, is somebody becoming too drunk and either crashing into our gear or somebody picking a fight, and we getting the blowback from something like that. And now for many DJs, there's a concern because of not knowing, health wise is I have this, I have that, or my family, I've got a child that's got this problem. And I just don't know. I do know DJs who before this didn't take shows during the cold and flu season. They're just like, you know what? I get to, November here in Minnesota. I just don't take winter shows because I don't want to be bringing something home. It's not unheard of. It has happened that people have had those concerns, and those have become real for a lot of folks. So, yeah, it's just a stressful time for many.
Yeah.
So, for those of you who have been worried about that, and you've had that, and it's like, should I, look at maybe going and picking up a job, and we're going to call it a second job, because our DJ is still here and we can still do it. It's just we don't know when that next paycheck will be, and to keep things in a process at some point to be ready to go down the road, I think there's a lot of value in that, and that's what you need to do. But let's look at that second job of what it is, and to be able to do that and still be successful on the other side. So I think that's where we'll go.
All right.
So we got our list, Dan. I don't know if you've got all 10 in front of you. Where do you think we should start on this?
Let me pull that list back up. Okay.
We've got 10 different topics. We're not going to hit all 10 tonight.
Looking through, I'm like, so many. It's like so many of these are great ones to hit. It's like to kind of really start with any one particular one is going to be tough. I'd say I would say this. Let's start with the very first one.
Okay.
Which is for us, we say having a plan. All right. And I think that's important because, if you decide that you're just going to go someplace and apply to get a job and start working someplace, you're going to run into a lot of frustrations because first off, you went to the full-time DJing because you enjoyed it, you love it, you breathe it. Maybe it became a necessary evil, whatever happens to be the case, but it becomes something that has some sort of a passion to it, which is why it's full-time for you. And so to just decide that I'm just going to take anything, I'm going to get anything that's out there just to get me by, I feel creates a problem for you. Mm-hmm. Because you're already not going to like the fact that you are not DJing. And now you're going to add in the fact that you are working a job that you don't like because you don't like it. It's going to create the double negative. Mm-hmm. So I feel it's important that when you, first off, plan this in advance. Hopefully you're not in a situation where money is running out next week and it's like, all right, I got to do this or I'm starving. But to plan for, okay, let's look at what else I'm good at. Let's look at what else is going to bring that money in that's going to help cover those bills. But also something that's not going to have to invest myself to the point that when these gigs coming back and these events come back, that I now feel trapped. Mm-hmm. If first off, if it's a decision where you're going to go part-time and that's your long-term decision, then that's different. But if this is something you're like, listen, this is for the filler, this is for the middle, have that plan of where you're going to go so that you can somewhat enjoy it to also help you get to that moment without more angst.
Yeah, for sure. When you talked about the finding a job that is something the thing that popped in my head is finding a job that would basically energize you or make you smile or something you would enjoy doing. Whereas just taking anything to get by to have that meal. I've known many people who've done just that. So it was a great point. Another spot with that, having, planning and looking at that, I don't think there's a problem with a person saying, okay, I want to do this and I'm going to probably do this job maybe until 2022, or, to look ahead and say, this is going to be about 2 years of my life that I'm going to have to juggle these two things before the DJ will probably be back to the point where it will become a full time. I don't think there's anything wrong with having a semi-realistic end point, looking at an end point. Not that I'd go in and say, hey, I'm going to apply here at Home Depot, and by the way, I'll be leaving you on April 15th of 2022 because proms are going to kick in that weekend. I can't work after. Not so much. But in your own head is to having an idea that, as Dan mentioned, it might be that you're going to move into that and that's going to become your second full-time job. And the DJ is going to become a little bit, downgraded in your hierarchy. That's okay. No, there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. I know many DJs who have done just that because that other income is, and with the benefits and different things, they're like, this is a for sure job for me. Unlike, what we may have here for the next several. So making those types of decisions, I don't think is a bad thing. The other area I want to hit in the make that plan idea is as we go into winter, and especially in the upper Midwest, and I don't know, Dan, you guys probably don't do too many weddings in the winter in your neck of the woods either, out in the Northeast. We don't have many events. Typically what happens in the winter is that we have retainers coming in for the upcoming summer's shows, and that's kind of how the DJ business over the years has been kind of kept afloat in the winter months. If you moved a lot of events from 2020 into 2021, you're not getting retainers on any of those events. Those events are hopefully going to happen, but you're not getting that money coming in. So having, planning of how to get through this next 6 months, maybe all you need to do. Maybe for the next 6 months, you're going to take that part-time job at UPS doing something, whatever it is. And then when you get into the spring, that might be your long-term, that, okay, we're going to do it. This is how we're going to do it. And we're going to move forward. It might be that this is a full-time career change for you, whichever works. But just being realistic and figuring it out before you jump, I think is probably the biggest part of that, having a plan.
I would also say it's important to plan for, refilling that bucket that you've had. You've been living off of your savings and maybe the unemployment and the PPP loan and all that. But for the most part, you've been living off of like a bucket that's slowly been emptying over the time. I would caution you to get into the quick fix, if it were, to work part time, and then as soon as like things get open and it's like, oh, I can start doing events yet? No, bye. You haven't filled up what's been kind of dwindling. So, maybe take some overlap time there.
Good idea.
to get that nest egg built back up, maybe even bigger, because you never saw something like this happen. And God forbid, either this comes around again or something else comes and we have that same situation again. You don't want to be right back in the same position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very good point. Very good point. Yeah. Taking 1 year and overlapping the two would possibly refill that little bank account pretty quickly. Okay, where should we head to?
Let's go for number 5.
I just had highlighted that one.
Yeah, we think alike every once in a while.
So my thought with the number 5, we're going to talk about networking circles. Typically, as we've been growing our business, we joined things like NACE. We joined our local bridal group that was meeting here, there, what have you. We were involved with multiple chambers of commerce, and we were doing all of these different networking things to try to get our name out there, to try to meet as many influential people as we possibly could. As we're stepping back into a more part-time status, my thought along the line is that you still will need to network and you still need to connect with people. But instead of having 50 people that I'm trying to connect with, my recommendation would be to take it down to about 5 people. That 5 people that are going to be your most consistent, most reliable, most effective people to be staying in touch with. Because I think what happens is we sometimes will try to do too many, and then with the limited amount of time we have, we're doing too many. We don't do well for any of them. Whereas if we narrow it down to maybe a couple of venues, a couple of photographers, whatever they are, and these are the people I'm going to network, and I'm going to spend time and maybe reach out to them once every 2 weeks or so, or maybe crazy once a week, just to check in or whatever it is, because you've built that friendship and relationship. You can do it with 5. You can't do it with 50.
Yeah, and I would also say your social media presence on their pages, becomes helpful as well with that within that networking, because it does become difficult for us to, I'm checking in with them every, once a week. They're not doing events, I'm not doing events. Now what are we really going to talk about? And you get to make that personal touch, but sometimes it gets a little tough. So finding ways to interact with each other so that you are still staying that top of mind as things start to come alive. You're going to be remembered a little bit better because you've been making those personal connections. And then I'm not talking about just, I'm going to like their Facebook business page, post that they just did, or their Instagram post for their business page, but on their personal level, have you connected in those ways, so that also, if you can't be face to face for whatever might be the reason, you're still having that presence, you're still having that connection with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I would also say that does allow you to have, as John said, you have your 5 core, but then you could also have another 5 to 10 that are more acquaintance level.
Yeah.
Where you're having that interaction, but you're not necessarily checking in with them as often.
Good point. Yeah, you could have your first string and your second string, starters and benchers.
Just don't call them that.
Yeah, probably not so much. But you mentioned the social media and such, and that'll jump us down to 8 here. Organization is going to be a big part of what you do, is to be organized and to be efficient with your time. We didn't have one on time here, did we? No.
No, I kind of was hinting at that with a lot of those.
Yeah, that to be organized and to know that I've got this block of time to work on my DJ. I'm going to take a half an hour each week to go to Facebook pages and like, comment, share, send a message of, hey, how you doing? Hey, I saw this really cool, whatever. Blocking out the time is going to become so much more valuable, because you've got the job you're doing, you're coming home, and you're going to have a significant other at home, maybe some children, whatever you've got. If you don't manage that time and define it and stick with that time, things like Facebook or social media in general is going to take any time you have and grind it up into dust and poof it away. So organization, when it comes to that side of it, is key. And I think, Dan, you probably had some other organization thoughts that you were working on with that.
Well, while we're still talking about the social media, so a couple tips that I would pass along to you. First off is, if you haven't yet done this with your friends list, getting them organized as far as, these are the people, these are my photographers, these are my venues, these are my local wedding people, whatever you might want to say, so that when you click on that and you kind of filter your feed, you can then check out those people a little more quickly. You're not scrolling down through feed after feed after feed of just random political stuff that you don't want to be a part of. So you have that aspect. But the other thing that I would throw in with that, and also I lost it with the social media. It was another thing with the social media, and I went there and I lost it.
Sorry.
Anyway, so we're gonna forget that I said there was anything. We're just gonna edit that part out. It didn't exist. No, when I was talking about organization, though, it was kind of along those same lines. Is you really need to have a plan. That's what it was. You need to have a plan of what you're going to do. So, for example, Alan Berg has talked about this recently. I think he did it when he was in with you, John, and he mentioned that every day, during this pandemic, he has a couple key things that he starts out his days doing. Mm-hmm. And one of those is to go on and he checks his LinkedIn and he checks his Facebook and whatever, to just simply wish happy birthday to the people that have birthdays. Like that's one of his things on his to-do list that he does every day. And he, takes probably 5 minutes to do it, or 10 minutes. With the thousands of people he has, probably takes him half an hour, who knows? But it's organization. It's a game plan, and he does it, and then he gets off and he gets away from it. And he doesn't come back unless he's got to be doing something important with it. So I think that's key. But when it comes to organization, you have to have that plan. It cannot stress this enough. Time management is going to be key to how you go about putting these pieces together, because our businesses still exist. This is not like, I'm just going to take my DJ business, I'm going to put it up on my shelf,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do this other job and I'm going to work it and I'm going to come home. I'm going to have my family, whatever happens to be the case. And then when things start working again, okay, now I'm going to take it off the shelf and I'm going to start doing something with it. You can't. The business will die. It's like a plant. If you don't take care of it, if you don't nurture it, it's going to go kaput.
Yeah.
So having that plan of how you can tend to both only works if you're organized about what you're doing. And that comes from your workflow, that comes from the tools you use, that comes from all those little pieces put together.
Yeah, organizing.
That kind of leads to number 6 a little.
Organizing workflow. So important. So important. And Brian Tracy is probably one of the first that I really had gotten some DVDs and motivational training, whatever. And he has so many things on organization and how to become more efficient with your time, and just fabulous stuff. If you guys haven't ever checked any of that, Brian Tracy, it was the name on that one. He's good stuff. So, okay, sorry, 6.
Well, I was just saying that, when we're talking about organization, that number 6 gets factored in because you're not going to realize this, but you're going to need to find some downtime. You're going to need to find some time where you're not working on the business, when you're not at the part-time job. And as crazy as this might be, you're not necessarily maybe with your family, your significant other. You've got some time to just kind of decompress, whether it's an exercise routine, whether it is meditation, whether it is spending time in a religious activity, whatever happens to be the case, you need to find that downtime or you will go crazy. I've been known to, what brought me into the fold of Disc Jockey News in the very beginning was I was the part-time guy, and talk to that. And I've been known at one time, it was kind of a joke, I had 6 part-time jobs when I counted them all up.
Oh, my.
Now, keep in mind, it was a little stretch maybe to get to a couple of them, as far as calling them necessarily jobs, but I was doing 6 of them at one time, and I was running myself ragged. Like I really was. Like I was DJing in one bar and I was up till 3 a.m. and then I was getting up the next morning and I was working on a radio station and I was just going that I never really had downtime. It becomes very important for you to develop a way to recharge, a way to just decompress and make sure you're not working yourself to the bone. The old adage, I can sleep when I'm dead. Yeah, but if you don't give yourself the downtime, that's going to come a lot sooner than you may want it to.
And an interesting thing, how did DJs have downtime? We'd have our Friday show, our Saturday show, Sunday, and I'm just going to lay on a couch all day and do nothing at home. That's no longer downtime. We've had enough of that type of downtime. I think that what you're seeing is that recharging for some people. Going on a hike, getting out into nature and going, the summer. I'll tell you, there's a few of our DJ friends that as you look at them and some of their pictures, they look better this year because they're getting outside and they're doing some things and they're probably eating better and such than they would if they were working full time. Whether the stress and such, is a completely different thing, but it's like getting out of the house has become, that downtime and energy recharger that a lot of people have found, and some are still going to be finding here as we get into fall.
Sorry, I'm catching up on the chat. And that Disc Jockey News guy out of nowhere just makes a little plug. It's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. But you notice in this particular plug, he almost used a quote there from, almost used a quote. Almost. I guess it could have been done with quotation. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Let's go ahead and let's hit number 4. I feel this is the 3 and 4 really kind of, in my viewpoint, went a lot together, and I'm sure there are other parts to your 3. So, for those of you that are like, what are these numbers they're talking about? It's our cheat sheet.
Yeah.
So to collaborate with others for services. So what's really nice about this is if you do this in the right way, this is gonna bode well for you in the long term. When you get back to that full time, collaborating with these other people, one, it's networking. All right. So it works at networking angle. It helps you with that. It also decreases some of that stress. So I
Huge.
know a lot of us, we've speaking from my experience, at least, maybe you're not like this, but where we've decided, hey, that's the greatest idea. I need to go buy that and sell it.
Yes.
And then it sits on your shelf for like 11 months out of the year, and it comes out for the 2 weddings that some bride finally jumped on it because she's like, oh, I like that too. And then it sits on your shelf again, and you bring it out and you barely make the money on it. Where if you had rented it from somebody, or worked out some sort of a trade alignment with another one, not necessarily subletting, but whatever, or subcontracting, but you could have done that and not have it take up storage space when you're not using it. So utilizing those services can help you in the immediate, because it's one less thing you kind of really have to worry about having on your plate. But it can also help you a year from now, 2 years from now, as we built this relationship. I'm trustworthy because I'm sending you business and we're working together on these moments. And it saves me from having to go buy the latest, greatest thing, because that's what you wanted to do. And I'm just going to help you and you're going to help me.
Exactly. Yeah. That, whether that's the photo booth, hiring a photo booth, or if you had, I know many DJs who have some photography options or some, candid picture options, hiring or working with another company, just that stress level. I've got someone else, they can do it. I don't have to worry about getting someone to man it. I don't have to worry about getting someone to do software breaking down, whatever it is. Yeah, someone else can handle that.
And I would add one extra little piece with that, because one of the things that's real quick to jump into is, the idea is, oh, well, if they give it to me and now it's going under mine, what if they decide not to do something? Now it looks bad on me. Those are one of the biggest fears I've always had, especially when you work with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And anything that's out of my control suddenly makes me nervous, that it could go wrong. I'm a big believer in those type of circumstances of one of two things: either sending the business to that person so that they can work it out and whatever. But the second would be, which I feel works maybe a little bit better, especially in your favor, is to work out some sort of deal of like, listen, if I send, let's work out some agreements so that if I basically take care of the selling of this for you, it's your business, you handle it, you do the contract, you run it all in between, you give me a little kickback because I sent something to you. That way you still make something because you market it. And if something happens and they screw up, it was them.
Mm-hmm.
You referred them, all right, but ideally the contract was with them.
Yeah.
They were the ones who were the problem, not you.
Yeah, for sure. And that's one of the business lessons I think I've shared with my kids for some reason in the last 2 or 3 weeks multiple times, is that sometimes counting on other people or relying on other people when it comes to certain situations, it's not something you want to do. If you can't deal with it yourself, it's better to have them do or go somewhere else or whatever it is. But unfortunately, when you have to rely on too many other people in some situations, it can backfire on you, and that's one of them. Let's jump down to equipment and talk a little bit about that. Again, because of that limited amount of time, is really when you mentioned the equipment upkeep, and our friend Jimmy has been feverishly fixing wires and doing this and modifying and putting adapters in here. And he's been busy with this for the last couple of weeks. And that's the kind of time, as you move to that part-time status, you don't have anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this actually came from an idea on a previous show that we talked about, where, you can't spend all week diagnosing the problem that's wrong with your system. Like let's assume for a second things start to pick up, whether it's a little bit, which is a glimmer of hope, or whether it's full on and you're doing that year overlap, or again you decide to do part-time for the rest of your career. When you're doing an event on Saturday, something happens. Here's the downside: Sunday, a lot of the places that you would typically buy from or help diagnose your problem are not open. and then Monday you're potentially back to that other job. And I realize some things can work on the weekends, don't get me wrong, but you can't then spend the next 5 days trying to diagnose this problem because you're not taking the gear with you and working on it while you're at the other job. And so you've got to have other forms of backups ready to go. So this is one of those that can be kind of a negative here. You're going to have to spend some money on some backups that would then afford you the opportunity maybe to have a professional look at your equipment, or to at least buy you a greater amount of time to dig into this project of fixing whatever it was that went wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and
that,
yeah, and that may cost a little bit to get it set up properly and set it up in a way that's going to be more foolproof. But in the long run, investing once instead of crying 3 times. I think that's the way it goes. Isn't that something like that?
Well, and you don't have to go crying to Ben about, like, Ben, I don't understand what I did. I touched this wire to this wire and I lost all my hair. Like,
yeah, it's like I licked my
not that I'm
fingers
speaking
and
from experience or
stuck it
anything.
in the outlet. I don't understand. Let's hit 2 and 7. Let's wrap with 7.
Okay.
I think the others we've kind of touched on those. I think let's go that route. So, flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
I think that ultimately becomes, as a business, when we were full time, we had, I don't want to say unlimited flexibility, but when this is all we did, we could do almost anything that we wanted to, and let the business basically drive our lives. Once you have that second job, now you're going to have flexibility, because there's going to be things you're going to have to do at hours that you don't want to do. You know, when you're full time, I can say, hey, I'm not doing any meetings after 5:00 during the week because that's my job. Now I've got to be more flexible. And it's like, oh, you want to meet at 9:30 on a Tuesday night because that's the only time that works for you, and I guess that's the only time that's going to work for me. Yay! I think there's a different level of flexibility that a person has to have when you're balancing two different businesses.
Well, and it comes also down to, when are you going to do the work on your business? Not just meetings, because exactly, I mean, if the only time that works for them and you, because the conflicting schedules is late, you do almost feel like you've got to kind of bend over backwards just to kind of help them out. But along those same lines, on a given day, like for me, when school's back in session and I'm actually going to work, going into the building, I leave in the morning, I come home 4-ish, I've immediately got family time.
Mm-hmm.
Got the kids. I'm not working on business then. I can't focus because of them. So most of the work that I do for my business, unless it's maybe a quick reply to an email or something, is done after they go to bed. So my whole family is in bed a lot of times by 9:00 at night. I don't go to bed till 10 or 11, even when we don't have the show, just because I'm sitting there working on contracts, working on music, updating my playlist, working on cue points, working on all those little things to the business. And you've just got to be flexible of how do you piece those pieces together without driving yourself nuts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's definitely going to implementing tools. You're going to have to be a little more creative in how you utilize your time and how you put everything together and keep things organized and keep your organizational system in place. I mean, it all ties together. It can be done, and it can be done at a high level. It's just you don't want to get to the point where we get to our last point of the night, where you have gotten to that point of burnout and exhaustion.
Yeah.
See how I segued over to that?
That was nice.
It segues almost as great as a mega seg flip of the song.
Just took the drink. You kind of waited like
I just had to figure a way to get that into the show because I haven't used it for a while. So I figured, chance.
But no, it can be very tempting to be exhausted, and especially if you really treat this as not 2 part-time jobs, but becomes 2 full-time jobs. And we talk about the idea of going part-time, and a lot of times when people ask me, is this your, when I'm at an event, is this your full-time job? Yes, but I'm also a teacher Monday through Friday. Like that's the way I word it. Like,
Sure.
and it's some people kind of give me that look.
Oh.
And so what ends up happening is, you know, it's very easy to fall into exhaustion when you're doing both of those at their peak. And I think that's why earlier I was so stressing, like finding that downtime, finding that healthy kick, finding that other piece so that you don't, burn the candle at both ends and suddenly you have nothing to hold on to.
What is the okay? So the exhaustion. A person's basically burned the candle at both ends. You did it. Is it a? We talked about recharging the battery and having those moments, but is exhaustion a physical thing most of the time when it comes to the DJ world, or is it a mental thing? I.e., physical, sleep a day, or get back on your sleep schedule, you can get past it. But in this situation, are we really talking about a physical or more mental exhaustion?
Well, I'm going to say both to that. And the reason why I say this is there was a Facebook post I saw, I want to say it was last weekend, maybe the weekend before, where a guy, they finally started opening things up. And because of making up for lost time, his companies, had events that pushed back from the spring. And he did a Friday, Saturday, and a Sunday
Sure.
for the first time in months. And the way he kind of talked, it almost sounded like he hadn't ever done a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Like it wasn't common for them. And so he was getting ready for Sunday, and the comment was just like, how do you guys do this? Like, how do you make it through? And I think that proper to take care of that physical exhaustion. Yes, there's the sleep all day, but I think it goes even earlier than that of making sure that you are taking care of yourself and your health. Making sure you're staying hydrated. I cannot stress this enough. This is a lesson I've learned the hard way over the past probably year and a half, 6 months to a year and a half, where that hydration, you're like, it's just drinking water. How is that supposed to help my sleep? Or how is that supposed to help me stay awake? Believe it or not, it's going to have a big impact. And so getting those physical key elements together is going to help the physical exhaustion. I think if your physical exhaustion is better, i.e., you don't have it as much, it also doesn't pull down the mental fatigue as well, or as strong. Because when we're beat down, then our psyche is down and our mind kind of goes, and so everything kind of works against it. Now, with that being said, this all goes back to one of the first things I think John said, which is it's not bad to have that end goal of, by 2022, this part-time job that I'm picking up now, I will have, things will hopefully have picked up by that point. I will have started to replace what's in my bank account back to where it should have been. And then I can safely get back into where I was pre-COVID. All right. And so having that light at the end of the tunnel also will help that mental angst, that mental exhaustion kind of go away, because you have something to look forward to. And if you're not going to get out of the part-time game, if that's the way you're going to go, then look for something else to be that light at the end of the tunnel. I remember Mike Walter talking about this one time where, at least I'm pretty sure it was him, where basically he always has a vacation that he and Kelly plan on the calendar. Like he hasn't even gone on the vacation that he's going on, and they've got another one on the books. And I think that is so key, because it always gives him something to look forward to. So when he's in the trenches, if you will, like, oh my gosh, it's event after event after event after event after event, or part-time job event, and I'm like just getting beat down. There is something that says, you know what, 5 weeks. I just got to get through 5 more weeks of this, and I can just breathe for a week or 3 days, whatever happens to be your vacation time, to kind of really recharge. So that light at the end of the tunnel, I think, is going to be key for a lot of us.
And I think that light at the end of the tunnel is different than a goal. The goal of working and building that nest egg back up type of a goal. A light at the end of a tunnel would be that, and I guess you could call it a short-term goal, but it really it's a different situation. Having a goal of wanting to get the business to this point, or get the money, the bank account back up to this point, or developing whatever it is, that goal, and a light at the end of the tunnel. Don't mistake. I don't want people to mistake the two, because you need to have that light at the end of the tunnel, because we've all had those weeks where it's like, oh, when I get past, when I'm done with prom season, I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, because proms, in our situation, proms are 4-hour setups or more. Weddings can be 20-minute setups. So getting past prom season is of like, oh, we're going to breathe then, because then our events changed dramatically. A lot different stress. So definitely two different things. No sound.
Huh?
Billy's not having any sound. I wonder if there's something on Facebook that.
We didn't play any music for them to mute us.
Oh, well, we're good. So, yeah. Billy must not. Yeah, I'll tell Billy on the video, turn up your speaker. Click the little X above the speaker.
He won't hear you, John.
Yeah, sound is on and good. Yeah, I don't know. Well, let's. I think I think we've hit our big things here. For those who are, I always like going back to one of Shaney's statements she likes to make, is that there's no shame in my game, and no shame in the game. And this is one of those situations. If you're debating about going and picking up a job this winter, I think that's, for a lot of us, and I say us because that's something I've toyed around with. I think that's going to be a legitimate thing to look at, and probably in many cases a wise thing to look at. Even if you've got a busy summer plan for next year, just not having those January and February retainers coming in, replacing that with a couple $100 a week check for part-time work could be the difference between living comfortably over the winter or having to dig into that savings just a little bit more. So it's no shame in the game if you need to make those changes, because at the end of the day, it's doing what's best for you and your family is the most important
Pride
part.
doesn't fill your stomach.
That's a good. Pride doesn't fill its stomach, or a gas tank, or a hard drive full of songs, or allows you to buy a Big Mac with fries and a Shamrock Shake.
We talked about being healthy, John.
I said
We need
Shamrock
physical
Shake.
exhaustion.
Seriously, shamrocks are like, they grow. They're like a vegetable or something, aren't they? Shamrock Shake.
It's salad.
Exactly. See, I knew there was something to it.
It's a smoothie. That's what it is, right?
And they're
It's a
green.
smoothie.
And like you said, a salad. They're good. Let's see. Tomorrow night.
Yeah, we got to
during
talk about tomorrow.
The Ben Stowe time, which is 9:00 Eastern. We've actually got a special show coming on tomorrow night. We've got the crew from Roland is coming in, and they're going to do a little educational content about going beyond mixing with a little session. But the cool thing is not only will you get to learn a little bit with that, they're going to be talking about some gear, and they're going to be doing some special pricing on Roland gear tomorrow night. That's going to be basically a one block of time. I don't know if it's an all day tomorrow, if it's the rest of the week, but there's going to be some special purchase Roland things, and Ben was going to have some things they're going to give away during the show. I'll be in the background running the tech side of the show tomorrow night, but Ben is going to be on. And then there's a Miles, I can't remember, Medina, I think it is, Miles Medina. Joe Bunn was going to be there, and then there's a couple of Daniel and is it Greg, I think, from Roland. So they're gonna have a nice crew up there, and that'll be going on tomorrow night at 9:00. Then at 10:00, Jay, Brian, and I are going to talk about what this upcoming off season is going to look like and how to kind of handle this. Because usually by this time we're starting to talk about how to revamp your website for the bridal shows, and we're going to do that. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about how this off season is going to be different, and we've talked a little bit about that tonight. But we're going to dig in with Jay and Brian and give them a little room to run with that one. Have some fun.
I think right there you just hit the website. I mean, I'm not going to steal their thunder, obviously, but you need to revamp your website right now, because that's how they're going to find you, because they're not coming to the bridal shows right now.
Yeah, there won't be bridal shows, or if they are, they're different in many ways. And yeah, so yeah, that'll be our tomorrow night's show to wrap up the week. Because I think MJ's off this week. I think after Labor Day he's going to go to weekly. with his live shows, but I don't think he's doing that quite yet. I don't remember. He
Okay.
told me, and
You don't listen to him.
I do listen, but I just don't remember.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a difference.
So it's not that you're ignorant, you're just old. Okay.
Yes, old and forgetful. And what was your name again? Can you write your name on your foreheads next time so it'll make it easier? Oh wait, that's at
George.
the bottom of the screen. Okay, I'm good. I just had it
yeah,
covered.
it is.
I just had it covered up. Sorry. I think we're good.
Okay.
That's
Well, of
right.
course, make sure you're checking out the Chill Room. It is available for you. djntv.com/chill. That will be there, and we'll be up and running. And who knows when we'll decide to come to you on a Monday night with that again. So if you want to be a part of the show, you kind of have to go to those things to understand what they are and to be a part of the Chill and talk all those kind of fun things, and maybe how Scott's going to avoid 2 hurricanes at once.
You might get a little wet.
Yeah. But thank you very much, everybody, for checking us out. Don't forget that show tomorrow night. I'm that right now. That's already in my calendar. I'm going to be checking it out and seeing some more stuff. I guarantee you're going to like it. In the meantime, enjoy your night. Rest well. We'll see you next time.
Good night, everybody.